Chapter 740, this was his home turf. Zhang Yi's eyes were cold like the eternal snow of the Arctic ice cap. Betrayal made him feel an overwhelming sense of anger. But at the same time, his mind was exceptionally clear, and he did not let his emotions interfere with his judgment. Perhaps it was just because he had seen so much human depravity in the end times that even though he had been betrayed, he seemed to have become somewhat used to it. Fortunately, I hid myself well enough, Zhang Yi felt so in his heart. The other party had underestimated his strength and was not adequately prepared for the attack. And this is my home court. Today I want to see who the hunter is and who the prey is. Zhang Yi opened a new communication channel and whispered, "Do it." The Tianhigh pirates and the people from Eclipse were about to make their move and surround and kill the Tianhigh squad, which was unable to escape from the. But at this moment, there was a sudden violent explosion where they were standing. The shockwave suddenly shot up into the sky, sending the bodies of many pirates high into the air. Go just 100 meters below their feet, there was a huge 3-story shelter covering tens of thousands of square meters. The place they were in was called Tianhigh Harbor. It was a post-apocalyptic military base, and Qin Jingwan had buried countless traps and explosives around the harbor. This was one of the tricks Zhang Yi had left behind. "This is Tianhigh City. My home court," Zhang Yi said coldly. The Tianhigh pirates and Eclipse Moon were caught off guard. But before they could steady their footing, a huge snowstorm descended from the sky, and the wind howled, blinding everyone. Phoenix Courtrin narrowed his eyes. Something's wrong. Among the Tianhigh pirates, an alien in charge of reconnaissance sensed the source of these anomalies. He said to Canuta in horror, "Captain, there are suddenly a lot of enemies in the northeast and northwest directions." Canuta said in a low voice, "Where are the enemies?" When they arrived in Tianhigh City, they searched everywhere for local residents and tried to loot their supplies. But in the end, they found nothing, not a single living person. Now, where is the large army? Those who came were no one else. They were exactly the reinforcements from Yangsheng Base and Qingpu Base. In addition, Uncle Yu and Fat Su were also in the ranks. From the beginning, Zhang Yi had been worried that the battle would be too difficult, so he had instructed the people from the major bases in advance. Once they started fighting, these people would all be on standby nearby, waiting for Zhang Yi's orders. After all, there was no reason for the boss to charge into battle in the front while the little brothers just stayed at home doing nothing. Zhang Yi gave Xiao Honglian and the others orders to interfere with the view around here and cause chaos. However, don't actually approach the battlefield. Zhang Yi still had a good idea of their strength. Xiao Honglian led dozens of fighters to a high point. Fat Su and Zhuge Qingting worked together to use the storm and snow to create chaos and help Zhang Yi create an opportunity to escape. Uncle Yu silently held the GPW-2 anti-material sniper rifle that Zhang Yi had given him, set up the weapon from a high place, and began sniping the pirates. Fatty Su said with some concern, "The boss told us not to get close. With just this level of harassment, will it work?" They didn't look like they were in large numbers, but in reality, there were even fewer people with combat capabilities. There were less than 10 aliens. It was fine to bluff a little, but if a real fight broke out, it wouldn't be enough. Sure enough, the explosion at Tianhigh Harbor only brought a brief moment of shock to the Tianhigh pirates and Eclipse Moon. After they recovered, they realized that the sudden appearance of enemies was not the reinforcements from Blizzard City, but the natives of Tianhigh City. This immediately put their minds at ease. Canuta sneered, "But they are just a bunch of fish. They can't make any waves." Canuta immediately arranged a team to go deal with Xiao Honglian, Xing Tian, and other natives of Tianhigh City. He was going to take his subordinates, the foreigners, and the Eclipse Moon organization to kill Zhang Yi and the others in the prison first. But no one could see what Zhang Yi was doing, as it was covered by the snowstorm. He took a deep breath, knowing in his heart that it was time to fight desperately. The enemy they were facing this time was not so easy to deal with. Fortunately, I have never revealed my true trump card. Zhang Yi stood in the center of the cage, his hands clasped into a ball in midair, and a black flash of lightning suddenly began to coalesce between his palms. Crackling! The lightning grew more and more numerous and thicker, and the strange, twisting power seemed to be swimming like little black snakes. The terrifying power made everyone around, including Bai Li Changqing, involuntarily widen their eyes and subconsciously take a few steps back. Only Liang Yu, Hua Hua, and Yang Xinxin knew what this power was. The few of them surrounded Zhang Yi to protect him, not allowing anyone to disturb them. The black mass of unstable matter became more and more dense, condensing into a huge black sphere in Zhang Yi's palm. Then, with the movement of Zhang Yi's hands, it was slowly compressed into a black ball the size of a volleyball. "Stay away from me!" Zhang Yi shouted. Everyone in the Tengu squad hurriedly stepped aside. Zhang Yi threw the black ball high into the air, and then instantly activated his ability to accelerate 20 times. He jumped up as a whole, more than 3 meters high, and then slammed his right fist hard into the ball of void. Whoosh! The black ball of void instantly pierced through space, passed through the invisible cage, and flew straight towards the direction where Canet was. At the same time, Canuta, who was still marshalling his troops, suddenly felt a warning in his heart. His animal instinct told him that danger was approaching. However, he was too close to Zhang Yi, less than a kilometer away. His misjudgment of Zhang Yi's strength left him with no choice but to dodge. Instead, he chose to fight. A shrill scream came from the huge shark's mouth. He tried to block the attack with his huge and sturdy body. Because behind him was the spellcaster Chenxiu, who had been confined to the area. The next moment, the entire space was enveloped by a dark sphere that had suddenly risen from the ground. It was a giant ball with a radius of hundreds of meters, exuding a terrifying power of destruction. The power contained within it caused those in the Phoenix courtyard on the short hill not far away to change color involuntarily. Oh! Canet's huge body rose up from the black ball and fell heavily to the ground in the distance. At this time, he was covered in blood and looked extremely miserable. On his hard body, there were terrifying and hideous scars. The scales comparable to alloy were opened, bloody and messy, as if tens of thousands of machetes had torn open countless wounds. Chapter 741, Big Melee. Canet could never have imagined that with his animal-type ability and full defense, he would be injured so deeply by Zhang Yi's move. He roared at Phoenix Courtrin, who was not far away, "You lied to me. His strength is not at all like what you said." After this move, almost everything at Canet's original location had been quietly erased. Except that Canuta was still alive, the hundreds of pirates behind him, including the ability user Chenxiu, had all been reduced to ashes. This scene stunned everyone at the scene. Of the thousands of members of the Tianhigh pirates, only 300 or 400 were left. Canuta had blocked Zhang Yi's void strike head-on, causing him to be seriously injured, and the other lackeys were so scared that they didn't know what to do. The members of the Tengu squad were also stunned. With their strength, they could not even imagine the terrifying power of this move. True. Captain-level strength. Yi stared at Zhang Yi and muttered these words. Even Deng Shintong did not have such a terrifying ability to attack a wide area with an AoE. This was definitely captain level, there was no mistake. And the standard for captain level was 9,000 points upwards for the ability index. Phoenix Courtrin and Shinguji Saikairo and the other Eclipse members also widened their eyes. Damn it, that guy gave us the wrong information. This is no vice-captain level combat power with a supernatural ability index of only 8,200 points. At this moment, in Blizzard City, none of Zhu Zheng and the others' faces did not show expressions of shock. Zhu Zheng's face went from shock to a smile in less than a second. He sat down firmly in his chair and crossed his arms on the table. I thought he had hidden it deep enough before. But I didn't realize that he had never revealed his true strength in front of us. Originally, they were worried that Zhang Yi would be killed by the joint forces of the Tianhigh pirates and Eclipse Moon. But now, the people in the Battle Command Center, including Zhu Zheng, were full of confidence. Judging from this state of affairs, Zhang Yi and the others will definitely be able to hold out until the reincarnation squad arrives for support. Zhu Jing was unable to contact Zhang Yi, so he contacted Gao Changkong again, asking him to quickly head to Tianhigh City to provide support. What's the situation over there with Zhang Yi? Gao Changkong's tone was full of tension. Zhu Jing gave a mysterious smile and said, "Don't worry too much. As long as you arrive in time, we will definitely win. Zhang Yi's strength is much greater than we had judged." Gao Changkong was a little taken aback, but then he laughed. Just as Bailey said. He's like a peasant who's always lived in poverty, always hiding food in good years in preparation for famine. This time, he really caught a big fish. Those who had underestimated him and deliberately set traps and ambushes for him were now filled with remorse. Perhaps only Bailey Changqing and the people in the Black Robe Squad had some understanding at this moment. They thought about the battle in Tianhigh City a few months ago. The predicament at this time was simply a drop in the bucket compared to that time. They had fought a true Epsilon-class strange person. Zhang Yi had led them to defeat Gen Kakuryo and absorb Gen Kakuryo's origin. Therefore, no matter how powerful Zhang Yi's performance was, they could understand it. Wu Di suddenly said in surprise, "The barrier is gone." Zhang Yi calmly said, "The real battle has just begun." From the beginning, the people of the Tianhigh pirates had never been considered a truly dangerous opponent by Zhang Yi. The only ones who put pressure on Zhang Yi were the few guys who appeared on the hill, the Erosion Moon. Yi, Shui Miao, and Luing Hao couldn't hide the hostility in their eyes when they saw them. It was they who caused the once mighty Celestial Squad to fall. Even their leader, Deng Shintong, was forced to self-destruct. This hatred is etched in their minds and they will never forget it. Zhang Yi looked up and stared at the few people standing on the small hill. And Feng Wangyuan and the others were also staring at Zhang Yi. Both sides knew that the key to ending this battle was to eliminate each other. By Li Changqing and in the middle of the communication, Zhu Zheng's voice came over the line. After a moment of hesitation, he said to Zhang Yi, "Zhu Shui said that the reincarnation squad will be here in half an hour at the most. Just give me half an hour." Zhang Yi gave him a cold glance and said nothing in response. He wasn't sure whether or not he could trust Zhu Zheng. Since he wasn't sure, he decided to trust himself first. "Phoenix Courtroom is mine. You take care of the others." Bailey, as Zhang Yiru had agreed previously, Bailey Changqing was in charge of arranging the tactics. Now that had been lifted, the distance between them and the enemy was very close, and there would undoubtedly be a big melee next. At times like this, everyone had to rely on their own abilities. Bailey Changqing was to arrange the distribution of combat power, and he only needed to hold off the opponent's general. Half an hour. He could try to trust Zhu Jing once, but he wouldn't trust him completely. Bailey Changqing immediately began assigning tasks to the members of the Tengu squad after receiving his orders. Zhang Yi, on the other hand, gave orders to the people around him. "Lian Yu, you need to help me hold off one of Eclipse Moon's main forces. Hua Hua, you protect Xinxin. In terms of speed, there aren't many foreigners here who can catch up with you. Run if you have to, but it's most important to protect your lives and Xinxin's." Liang Yu nodded vigorously, "Okay." The Longming in her hand tightened, and she wondered if there was some kind of connection between top martial artists. Nobunaga Tsukamoto on the hilltop looked in her direction. Hundreds of meters apart, the murderous intent in their eyes made the air seem even more solemn. "I've already found my opponent," Liang Yu said. Meanwhile, Hua Hua had already completed its transformation. It hid Yang Xinxin among its thick fur, leaving only her neck and head exposed. Its fur, which was stronger and sharper than steel, was the best protective layer. While Zhang Yi was mobilizing his troops, Phoenix Courtroom was also busy. Zhang Yi's sudden outburst of terrifying power made him feel that the situation was out of control. Since he started to build the organization at the critical moment, with the help of Mayu Takeuchi's fortune-telling, he had never encountered such an unpredictable situation in battle. Even when he encountered an opponent he couldn't solve, he was able to detect the danger in advance and escape early. But he didn't expect that, on the other side of the sea, he encountered his nemesis. Once a person has spent a long time in a certain field, if they suddenly leave the comfort of that space, they will feel extremely uncomfortable. It's like someone who is used to the internet suddenly arrives in a mountain village with no internet, and they will be at a loss. Phoenix Courtran felt this way of discomfort when he encountered Zhang Yi. And this feeling made him desperately want to eliminate Zhang Yi. "Shinguji, you and I will work together to kill each other's team leader first," Phoenix Courtran said to Shinguji Saikairo next to him. Shinguji Saikairo pushed his gold-rimmed glasses and, unusually, did not disagree with Phoenix Courtran's view. Because he knew that Phoenix Courtran was a guy who didn't know danger. Once he asked someone for help, it could only mean that his opponent really made him feel insecure.